this time I was trying to give everybody time to say hello. But we can go ahead and start. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, sure.
All right. I will start out by reading our mission statement, if I can read it. WIVLA's mission is to provide an inspiring forum for women to explore and advance their creative development, to promote their work in the marketplace, and to infuse the community with their spirit of cooperation and invention. Such a great statement.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah, let's start off. Melissa, do we have any new members? And I know we have some guests tonight to introduce.
Well, I don't know that I've ever met Catherine McDaniel. And Catherine, I think you just joined, what was it, in October, fall of last year? Does that sound about right? But anyway, nice to see you.
Thanks.
Where is she? I can't find her.
Well, she's third down on the left from my square, but I don't know.
There
About
she is. Okay. Hi, Catherine.
With the cat on the bed behind me.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think she was a presenter once.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was the year before.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh, God, that long ago. Oh,
July,
Excellent.
2 years back.
yeah.
That's right. Excellent. Anyone else new? I know Jerry, maybe you hadn't met Liz yet, but she's also on the board now, and which is exciting. And
I've invited a guest.
Has Iris been to a meeting since she joined?
I don't think so.
Iris, raise your hand. She's in the middle of all the
with a very cool background.
Yeah.
Hi, Iris.
Oh.
And did someone say there was a guest?
Yes,
Yes.
I invited Mary Ann Keeling, who's waving right now, and I asked her to introduce herself and tell us about what she does and everything. So, Mary Ann?
Oh, thank you, Shirley. Well, I know Melody and Shirley and Iris through HVAN, Houston Visual Artists Network, and I've loved that group. I have career-wise been a portrait photographer, but all along the way, I have also loved landscape as well as painting. I paint with acrylics. I generally paint the work that I have photographed or the subjects that I have photographed. And probably the last at least 4 years full time, I would say, I've really transitioned over to just that segment of the workplace. I've let my portrait photography go to others who I was very willing to refer to. And I'm doing all my landscape and fine art, which I love. I'm in a couple of galleries in the Charleston, South Carolina area, which is where I'm from. A lot of my work is also sort of sourced from there. I love the Low Country. I love to photograph. I love to paint it. So I've kind of naturally navigated to galleries there initially, but I really do want to find, a gallery or two here in the immediate Southeast Texas area to be able to market my work as well. I have an online gallery that I sell from that has had some success, but mostly people look at it, they love it, but many of them end up contacting me directly to order, which is just fine with me. But that's a whole nother discussion. Anyway, enough about me. I'm originally from South Carolina, got transported to Houston. My husband was in the oil and gas industry for 40 years. He's retired now. I don't know that I'll ever retire because I love what I do too much. So we travel quite a bit. That also is very inspirational to me. I gather a lot of work from some of our travels as well. We're in Northwest Houston, just around the Champions area is where we live.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
welcome.
you.
We're so glad that you're here tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, she really does beautiful work. I'd love for you all to see her work sometime. So,
Oh, thank you, Susan. it doesn't compare with most of y'all, but I love what I do. So, you know.
That's what counts.
It works pretty nice.
It is.
Yeah.
I see a name that I don't recognize, Mary Thomas. Hi, Mary, and welcome. Anybody
Oh,
else?
there she is.
Hi, thank you. I actually don't live in Houston anymore, but I was in Wivla a long time ago, and I just decided to pop in here
Okay.
Great.
and see the meeting. And I would like to mention that we have a new atelier school in Kerrville, and if anybody is interested, look for that on the website, because we're going to have some good workshops and stuff. But anyway, it's a nice place to come to visit for classical atelier type art training. But thank you for letting me come.
Great.
Oh, we're happy to
bet.
have you. And you know, our website and our newsletter is a great place for you to advertise your new.
Yes, I've just mentioned that to the director. I think we're going to be doing that. Because
Okay.
there's great organization in Houston and we need to connect. So I miss Wivla. That's and Houston. I love living in the hill country, but I miss both of those things. But thank you. Bye.
Well, Susan, can I say that living in Houston is not a prerequisite for belonging to Wibla?
Absolutely.
I think I just said it.
Yes, you just said it.
Yeah, we've
And
got
it
a
was
board member
number
that
of-
lives, we
a
have a board
number of
member that
members.
lives in Atlanta, Mary.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
I was a member of Wivla, and I probably will rejoin, but thank you.
Yay.
Wonderful. Okay, well, if you need any help with anything, reach out to one of us. We're happy to help.
Yep.
Pam Swallow just joined. She's in the dark, but she's just
I
waiting.
am. I'm sitting here
Oh,
watching the storms come in.
mm,
We can barely see you, but she's a fairly new member also.
Yeah, I don't have any lights on. I'm just going with whatever's lights out the windows.
Mood lighting, nice.
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm going to pass this along to Shirley and Marie for announcements for visual.
Shirley and Marie?
I'm sorry.
Deborah,
I'm behind the times.
I don't see Deborah here.
Shirley and Deborah. Yes.
Do y'all see Deborah? Anybody?
No.
No.
So I guess all I have to say is to mention the Rise show again, the juried art show. Everything is open for submission. So if you go onto the wibla.org website and look under events and then visual arts exhibitions, you can see the prospectus there, which gives you all the information about the deadlines. June 15th is the closing date of the submission, and when the show will open and when it will close. July the 15th, I think it opens and closes August 31st. So check it out and don't forget to submit. It's as a member of Wivla, you only pay $35 for your first 4 submissions. And after that, it's $5 per submission for a total of 10 if you want to submit that many. What Melody is going, what? 4 submission. You get for $35, you get to put 4 in, right?
4 submissions, I'm sorry. 4 for 35 and then
Yes.
$4 for each additional, not 5.
Oh, it's $4. That's right. Or if you're a member, I'm sorry. So thank you, Melody. Any
So,
questions about that?
yes, yes.
Okay, go.
So how many submissions do you think you can accommodate in that space?
Well, it's juried. So I think up to 40. Is that about right, Melody?
Somewhere around there, 40
Yeah,
pieces.
40 pieces of
45,
art.
depending, yeah.
Yeah. So,
BAA had a show there, Joe. I think you might recall. You might have even been in it.
Yes, I was in it. Yep.
okay. So anyway, keep that in mind. And as I said, the topic is rise. So that can mean many things to many people. It could be a sunrise. It could be getting a paycheck increase. It could be anything. So just whatever you want to depict in your art that represents rise. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Rebecca.
Okay,
about it.
so
Literary.
Literary has 3 things upcoming in the near future. The first one is February 28th, not this Friday, but the next Friday, or we're gonna have a table at the Right Space open mic at Sabine Street Studios, 7 p.m. I know we have WIVLA members that already attend those, but you know, if you've never been, this is the time to show up. The link is on the calendar for the Eventbrite. It's $5 if you're not a Right Space member. It's free if you are a Right Space member. And if you want to read, there's an additional sign up. Like you have to go to the Eventbrite and then find the link in the Eventbrite to sign up to read if you want to read. Although if they have time, they'll accommodate people who didn't sign up in advance. But if it's full, you'll be out of luck if you didn't sign up. Then March 8th, we're doing a social media campaign for International Women's Day. And I think that was already posted in the Facebook group, and that's not exclusive to literary. Like anything that inspires you, like art, something that you've written, just an image of somebody who inspires you, would fit with that campaign. And then April 12th, we have Poetry by the Bay. The sign up for that one is also on the calendar already. It's about a third full at this point. I think that's it.
Okay. Lots of good stuff going on. Let me take a minute to talk to you about the Echo Fund coming up. I'm just gonna, I've got the email here in front of me, so I'm just gonna read some of this to you because I want everybody to know exactly what the Echo Fund is. We've been doing this since 1999. And since that time, we have awarded $52,000 to WIVLA members. That's quite an achievement, I think. So what is the Echo Fund? It is a $1,000 grant given to a literary member and a visual member. It's a blind drawing. And it is used to provide support for specific projects that enhance the creative development of the recipients. So you can really use this Echo grant money for anything. We've even had somebody, I think, use it to enhance their septic system in their house. I was an Echo recipient 2 years ago, and I used it to help fund a show that I was doing with Shirley Byer and Brenda Bowman. And I also used part of it to go to Ireland. It helped fund a workshop over there. So there's all kinds of opportunities out there for you to use this Echo grant. And the deadline is April the 4th. So you want to, and the submission is online. It's on our website, Melody, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And numerous emails have been going out about it as well for you to sign up. To be eligible for the Echo grant, you have to be a current member for the last 2 consecutive years. And you you can only win once. So if you've been an Echo grant recipient in the past, you can't apply again. Sorry. So we hope that everybody will take advantage of that. It's a wonderful opportunity, believe me. Let's see. Jamie, do you have anything you want to talk about as far as publicity?
Just that inviting everybody to, if you use Instagram, to put us on, ask us to be a collaborator so that I can reach more people. If you have any events, if you put them on the calendar, I'm working on putting them on our social media accounts, possibly even sending out emails for our, well, you'll be getting like emails on our workshops like Soul Collage coming up soon. So yeah, I think that's it. Again, yeah, unless anybody has any questions, you can always, if you have something you want publicized, you can always email the WIVLA and just put publicity in the subject line.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jamie. You're doing a great job. Well, I think that's it for board announcements. Unless I missed somebody. Now's your time to speak up. All right, then I'm going to pass it along to Alyssa, and we're going to start our program. And stay tuned after the program. We'll have some time for you to make announcements of what's going on with you, if there's anything that you'd like our group to know about tonight. So take it away, Alyssa.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. This is a night where I'm grateful we do this on Zoom with the rain that's coming down. I am spectacularly excited about tonight's presentation. I've known Gika Rector for over 20 years. It's always shocking to say it out loud. Gika is a personal coach and a Feldenkrais practitioner and instructor, which is what she will be educating us about tonight. But she is also a felt maker. This is how I got to know Gika, when she taught me how to make beautiful handmade felt, which sometimes gets turned into chickens. But those are all things that I've made in workshops with Gika. I'm looking at another piece hanging on my wall. I just grabbed what was handy tonight. And Gika is a truly a born collaborator. She has such a giving spirit around creativity, around art, around life. And so it's a real joy to be able to bring her into the WIVLA fold, so to speak. We will be having an upcoming felt making workshop with Gika. And I'll put more info about that in the chat, but there will also be, we'll get the info up on the WIVLA calendar very likely next week. So stay tuned. Everyone will have a chance to see that other facet of Gika and the work she does. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Gika. Take it away.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank y'all for having me. What a pleasure. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, huh, Alyssa? Wow. So what I'm here to talk with you about tonight is the Feldenkrais method in the context of self-care. I feel like the word or the phrase self-care is used a lot these days, and it means something different to every person. And I would invite you to just take a moment to think about what it means to you. What's the most important thing right now about self-care for you?
Yeah. Recovering from pneumonia.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Yeah. Yeah. I also am thinking about it in the context of what we do as artists, whether you're a visual artist or a literary artist. One of the things that Alyssa and I talked about is how we can get completely swept away in what we're doing. There's a scientist was a scientist whose name I can't pronounce, who came up with the idea of flow. And all of us as artists have gotten into that state where we're so caught up in what we're doing that we lose track of time. We don't even have really much emotion. We're just immersed in what we're doing. And sometimes when we come out of that, we feel some aches and pains and some stiffness because we've been so focused on what we're doing creatively that we haven't paid attention to our bodies. One of the stories that I have about that is one of my favorite people on the planet is a woman named Margaret Stove, who's a hand spinner and hand knitter. She became really well known for her very superfine spinning of merino yarn, and then she would knit it into lace pieces. The pieces were like she was commissioned to do a christening shawl for Prince William, and it was about 5 or 6 feet diameter. In the process of working on something like that, she began to have some problems with her hands and arms, and really actually did some neurological damage. And she told me about something called the Alexander technique, which some of you may have heard about. I got really intrigued because my posture was really bad and I'd get really sore neck and shoulders. And I just kind of wondered what that was all about. And I had done yoga and I tried to look at anatomy and figure out, if I just knew how to stand up straight and use my body more appropriately, somehow magically, I wouldn't have those issues. And maybe I'd even be more coordinated. And then one day I was in Houston area fiber artists, which I'm guessing some of you know about. And a friend of mine there said, I have this friend who does this thing and I can't remember what it's called. Well, you can imagine why she couldn't remember what it's called, because it was Feldenkrais, which is a crazy name. It's the guy's name. The guy, Moshe Feldenkrais, developed this method of working with people to help them move better. And he did that in primarily 2 ways. One is what we'll do tonight, which is the Feldenkrais person, the practitioner, or Feldenkrais himself when he was alive, would offer verbal guidance for making some really easy, gentle movements, and also guidance about what to pay attention to in the process of doing those. And generally what would happen is at the end of a lesson, people would feel better. They could move more easily. They might feel lighter. They might feel really relaxed and want to go take a nap, or they might feel energized and ready to go play soccer or whatever. So that's one way. The other way is that we do a method called functional integration, where somebody lies on a table generally, and we use our hands to guide the movement. They come dressed comfortably, and we use our hands to suggest movements and to bring attention to how we move and how we might move more easily. So if it's all right with y'all, what I'd like to do is give you an experience of that. But maybe first, if anybody has any questions, I can try to answer them.
Remember, you guys are muted. If you have a question, you need to unmute.
It's all so perfectly clear, right? Or so unclear. Who knows what to ask, because you have no idea what I'm talking about. So Melody, could I ask you to remove the spotlight so I can see the people in the room, so to speak? Thanks. So what I'd like for you to do, if you don't mind, is just sit. You're already sitting probably. And take a moment to close your eyes and notice how you're sitting. And you don't need to correct it. You're sitting perfectly fine. Just sit how you're sitting. And just notice how it is. So if you're sitting on some sort of device, some part of your bottom is on that device, whether it's a chair or a stool or whatever. And notice that that thing that you're sitting on is giving you support. It's holding you up. And your feet are somewhere. Maybe they're on the floor. Maybe part of each foot is on the floor. And of course, you have a spine. Your spine is your backbone, or series of backbones. Notice where that is in space. And imagine, if you could, what the shape of that space is, from the tailbone really close to your chair or whatever you're sitting on, all the way up to the base of your skull. Your spine has a certain length. It has a certain shape. I don't know anybody who has a perfectly straight spine. And our spines are really not meant to be perfectly straight. So just notice what that shape is for you in this moment. And the fact that your shape of your spine changes is part of how we can move around in the world, which is really nice. And then I'd like for you to notice another thing. Notice how you're sitting and what's easy about how you're sitting. What makes it comfortable? And if you had to sit in that place for a really long time, what would make it more effort? What part of your sitting would get tiresome first? Just to notice. Nice. And so now, notice your breath coming in and going out. And if you don't mind, if it's easy enough for you to do, please put your feet flat on the floor if they're not already. So you have both feet on the floor. And if that's a new position for you, notice what's different about that, aside from the fact that you now have both feet on the floor. Do your sit bones sit differently on the surface? Does your spine change its shape? Do you get taller or shorter? Nice. And now just let your hands rest in your lap. And bring your attention to your left sit bone. That's the bone that you sit on the left side. Maybe you can feel it. Maybe you just have an idea where it is. And then just a little bit, lift that left sit bone and allow that to tilt your torso to the right. So you lift your sit bone and you tilt to the right, and then you come back. Just an easy movement, doesn't have to be big. Just lift the sit bone and then come back. Very nice. Do that a few times comfortably, easily. And then bring your left arm up into the air. If you can bring it overhead comfortably, that's great. If this is as far as you go, that's great too. And continue that same movement of lifting your left sit bone and tilting to the right. And you might notice that that feels a little different. Your arm has a certain weight to it, and there's a difference in having that weight help you to tilt to the side. And then bring your arm back down by your side, let your hands rest, and you rest. Just rest in sitting in whatever's comfortable for you. One of the things we do a lot in Feldenkrais is rest between movements. It gives your brain a break in paying attention. It also makes the next movement feel a little different. It's like a fresh start, which is kind of nice. But our rests tend to be kind of short. So now bring your attention to your right sit bone, that bone that you sit on the bottom of your right hip, and lift your right sit bone and tilt to the left. So your whole body stays in the same shape. It just tilts to the left. Your right sit bone comes away from the chair or whatever you're sitting on, and you come back. Nice. Do that a few times. And then bring your right arm into the air and tilt to the left. And notice, is this side easier, not as easy, more comfortable, less comfortable?
Stop.
Nice.
I will squish you like a bug. Said that.
And then when you're ready, let that go. Let your hands rest. Let yourself rest. And notice how you're sitting now. Whatever position you've taken, is there something different in your sitting? Nice. And now bring your attention to the middle of your torso and bring the right side of your waist to the right and back to the middle. So the right side of your tummy, the right side, you have a hip bone and then you have ribs, and that soft part in between gets tilted to the right and comes back to the middle. So it could be that your head goes a little to the left as your waist goes to the right. Maybe you feel a different kind of pressure on your sit bones. Nice. As you continue that, maybe you could let your left hip bone, sit bone, come a little bit away from the chair or whatever you're sitting on. So it's a little side bending, your waist goes to the right, your head tilts a little to the left. And notice what happens with your ribs on each side. Could be that some of your ribs spread apart, some of them come closer together. Pause for a moment. And now do that same thing of moving your middle section of your torso to the right, but let your head and shoulders stay in the middle. So it might be a smaller movement, a little more subtle. Nice. And now come back to the very first movement you did, which is tilting your whole self by lifting your left sit bone. And just notice how that is. Do you do it differently now? Maybe yes, maybe no. And then let it go, just rest. And now please go back to lifting your right sit bone. Tilt to the right, to the left. And pause. And then move the middle of your left side to the left and back to the middle. Notice what your ribs do. Notice if this side is easier or not as easy. And maybe add lifting the right hip, the right sit bone. Pause for just a moment. And now can you move the middle of your waist, the left side of your waist to the left and let your head and shoulders stay more or less in the middle? Probably a smaller movement, a little more subtle. And then take a nice rest. Sit comfortably some way. Notice what's the same, what's different. As your breathing changed, as the length of your spine changed. And when you're ready, come back to sitting with your feet both flat on the floor, your hands resting in your lap. And now bring your right shoulder to the right. So your right shoulder just goes to the right and comes back. To the right and comes back. And maybe as you bring your shoulder to the right, your head tilts a little to the left. Gently, easily. Just notice how that is. Maybe your left ear gets a little closer to your left shoulder. Always within an easy, gentle range. If you find yourself straining, back off. Do it tiny, tiny. Pause in the middle for a moment. And now begin again to bring your right shoulder to the right, but this time lift it up a little higher. So you go to the right with your shoulder and lift it up a bit. To the right and lift it. And your head can still tilt to the left. Maybe you'll feel your left ear get a little closer to your left shoulder. It doesn't need to touch your shoulder. In fact, that would probably be a strain at this point. Nice. And what's happening with the rest of you while you're bringing your shoulder to the right and bringing it higher? Something happening in your sit bones? Are you still breathing? It's always good to keep breathing. And now bring your shoulder down and to the right. Your right shoulder goes down and to the right. And still probably your head tilts to the left. And then do a funny thing. Do that really quickly and easily. Down and to the right, down and to the right, down and to the right. Nice. And then let it go. Rest in sitting. Notice how you feel at this point. And now lift the left sit bone again. Let the middle of yourself go to the right. Your head can tilt to the left. Nice. Pause for a moment. Bring your right shoulder to the right, and this time turn your head to look to the left. Just look over your left shoulder, gently, easily. There's nothing back there that you need to worry about. And then come back. Rest for a moment. And now please bring your left shoulder to the left. Just to the left and back. To the back, left and back. Easily, gently. If you're also a musical artist, you could imagine doing this to a very gentle, slow rhythm. And then add that you bring your left shoulder to the left and a little higher. To the left and a little higher. Gently higher. Don't strain it. A lot of us end up with really tight shoulders because of all the things we do. So just be kind to your shoulder. To the left and higher and back. Notice if your breath stays the same volume, the same rhythm. And now do your shoulder to the left and down, to the left and down. Notice that the shape of your spine changes when you do that, and it's different from when you go to the left and higher. Back to what I said earlier about the capacity of the spine to move and change its shape allows us to do so many things. And then do that again a little quicker, a little quicker, a little quicker. Sometimes when we do it quicker, it is smaller. But it also lets go something. And then come back, rest, sit comfortably. Notice how you sit now. Notice how you breathe. Is something changing inside yourself? Now come back to bringing your right shoulder to the right. Notice if you lift your hip, do you bend in the middle of yourself? Bring your right shoulder to the right and very gently turn your head to look to the left, and then you come back. Bring your shoulder to the right, turn your head to the left and come back. Nice. And now continue that, but notice where your chin goes when you turn your head to the left. So follow your chin. If you like to draw, you can imagine that your chin is drawing a line in space. And after you've done that a few times, notice what happens with your nose. So your nose goes to the left. Does that change the shape of the movement? Does it change the quality or the sensation of the movement? And after you've done that a few times, imagine what's happening with your forehead. It's going to the left also, but when your attention is there, does the movement feel different? And what happens if your left ear goes to the left? Of course, it's already been going to the left, but what's different when you pay attention to that? And then pause for a moment, sit. Again, bring your shoulder to the right and look to the left, and this time stay there. And in that position, bring your right shoulder a little forward and a little backward. Just gently. You're looking to the left, your shoulders to the right, but as it's in that right position, you bring just your shoulder to the front and to the back. Maybe you can even begin to feel that your shoulder blade slides along something in the back. Nice. Stay there, and now bring your shoulder up and down, gently, easily, no strain. I'm watching somebody smile like something happened there, and then come back to the middle and rest. Notice what you notice, and in particular, notice what's the difference between your right shoulder and your left shoulder now. The right side of your neck, the left side of your neck. And just a couple of times, go back to one of those earlier movements. Lift your left sit bone, let the waist go to the right, let your head tilt to the left. And feel, has that movement changed? Is there anything different about how you move now? And then once again, bring your shoulder to the right, look to the left, keep your head to the left. And now with just your eyes, look up and down and up and down. This movement always makes just your eyes, your head stays in the same position. This always makes me think of when somebody comes in the room and you're interested in what they're wearing and you look up and you look down, but you want to be subtle about it. You don't want to have your whole head go. You're doing this incognito sort of. And then stay for a moment in that same position and let your eyes go to the right and to the left, to the right and to the left. Come back to the middle. Gently come back to the middle. And just a couple of times, bring your shoulder to the right, look over your left shoulder and see how that feels now. I think y'all are going to have to add, just rest now. I think you're going to have to add dancing to the mission. Y'all look like dancers now. So rest for a moment. And then when you're ready, put your feet flat on the floor. Let your hands rest in your lap. Bring your left shoulder to the left. And then begin to add to that as your left shoulder goes to the left, your head goes to the right. You look almost as if you want to look over your right shoulder, but no strain, no cars behind you, nothing to worry about. Nice. Very nice. Notice where your chin goes when you do that. Does your chin move differently going in this direction than the other? Just come back to the middle and just go to the right. Your left shoulder goes to the left and your head goes to the right. Keep doing that same direction a number of times. Follow your chin. And then notice what happens with your nose. Where does your nose go? What does the nose know? And then your forehead. And then your right ear. Nice. Come to the middle and rest for a moment. Bring your shoulder to the left and turn to the right. Lift and lower your right shoulder. Bring your shoulder forward and backward. Does this shoulder like movement better than the other one or not as much? Let your shoulder stay there. Look up and look down. Look up and look down. And then look to the left and look to the right, just with your eyes, just with your eyes. The head stays in the same position. Your eyes go up and down, and then a few times to the right and left. And when you're ready, come back to the middle. And then just a couple of times to see what it's like. Lift your right sit bone, let your middle go to the left, your head tilt to the right. And maybe you even want to turn your head to the right and see where it goes. After that, rest for a moment. Notice how you're sitting now. And now, make sure again that you have your feet flat on the floor. Bring both arms out to the side like you're making a letter T. And bring your right arm to the right and back to the middle. Notice that your head probably tilts a little to the left. Keep your arms at about the same level. Your head tilts gently, gently to the left. Nice. And then a few times the other direction. Your arms go, your left arm goes to the left and your head tilts to the right. Nice. Come back to the middle, rest your arms. And now this time, when you bring your arms out to the side again, and this time let your head tilt to the right as your right arm reaches to the side, and come back to the middle. Reach your right arm, let your head tilt to the right. So it's tilting more than turning. Your face still faces forward, which is a weird thing. Doesn't have to be a big movement. And then pause. Rest your arms. When you're ready, raise your arms again. Bring your left arm to the left. Let your head tilt to the left. So it's tilting, and the left ear comes a little closer to the left shoulder. Nice. And again, rest your arms. As much as y'all work with your hands, most of us don't go around like this a whole lot. You have to add that if you're going to be dancers, I guess. And now one more time, bring your arms out to the side. And this time, as you tilt to the right and alternate, tilt to the right, tilt to the left, and let your head turn whichever direction you like. Notice, do you bring your arm, do you turn your head to the arm that's reaching or the other arm? And mostly keep your arms level so they stay at about the same level from the floor. Turn once to one side, once to the other side. Notice if you're going toward the reaching out hand or the other hand. And then whichever one you're doing, try it the other way. Okay, blowing your mind, right? For some of us. So if you were going toward the hand that was reaching, then go to the trailing hand. And notice, does your head want to do that or not? Maybe yes, maybe no. And then keep doing it and just turn your head whichever way you want it to go. And when you're ready, come back to the middle, let your hands rest, let your body rest. And then one more time, tilt your body to the left and come back to the middle, to the left and come back to the middle, and then to the right and come back to the middle. And then bend your middle to the right, lift your sit bone, let your shoulders tilt, see what happens with your head. And then the other side a few times. And if you want, you can alternate one hip and the other hip and see what happens. Notice as you do that, what's moving in your spine. And if your spine is moving the same, more easily, less easily. And when you're ready, come back and just sit for a moment, maybe even close your eyes. Notice how you sit on the chair. Notice the length of your spine, the shape of your spine. What's easy about sitting now? How long could you sit? And over time, what would make this work for you? And if you like, you might want to take a moment just to come to stand. Notice how it is to stand after doing this and walk around a little bit and just notice how it is to walk. Nice. And I want to ask for comments and questions, but before we do, I want to show you one other thing that I love to share with people. And this is something that was taught to me by a woman named Eleanor Silverstein, and it's based on something that a woman named Linda Tellington Jones did. So sit for a moment and find your sternum. Your sternum is your chest bone. If you're old enough to remember playing Tarzan, it's the part that you would do. So put your the palm of one hand on your sternum, and then the palm of the other hand on the back of that hand. And perhaps you could imagine that you have a circle or a clock under your hands. 6 o'clock is down toward the xiphoid process, down toward your belly, and 12 o'clock is up by your neck. Although maybe your clock is smaller than that. And beginning at 6 o'clock, down at the bottom of your circle, let your hands make a small circle all the way around the clock, going around to up to 12 and then back down to 6, and then up to the quarter hour, either 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whichever way your clock is facing, and then come back down to the base of your clock to 6 o'clock. So you make a circle and a quarter, and then you come back down to 6 o'clock. And now as you continue that, each time that you make the circle and a quarter, breathe in through your nose and think of something you appreciate. When you come back down to the base of your clock to 6 o'clock, exhale through pursed lips. So circle and a quarter, breathing in through your nose, thinking of something you appreciate. Coming back down to the base of your circle as you exhale through pursed lips. Do that a few times, gently, kindly, at your own pace. And when it feels complete, let it go. Let your hands rest. Let yourself rest. And before we talk, just take a moment to notice how you feel now. What's important to you about self-care? Thank you so much for letting me share this with you. And I'd love to hear if you have any comments or questions.
Thank you so much, Gika. Per usual, when I do Feldenkrais, there is inevitably a moment where I think, you want me to do what? You've now seen the requests are not extraordinary, but yes, Melissa, it's like I'm being asked to use my left hand, which is otherwise entirely useless, and yet here I am. And tonight was no different. Thank you, Gika.
My pleasure.
Yes.
One of my favorite quotes from Feldenkrais had something to do with making the impossible possible, the possible easy, and the easy graceful, or something like that. And it's amazing that sometimes you can do that within one lesson.
I really love, oh, go ahead.
It was just so relaxing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I have been feeling a lot of tension recently, and it just really made me be in the present moment.
Oh,
Mhm.
thank you.
So thank
Nice.
you.
Yeah, I feel very relaxed, like ready for a nap.
I love how you have the sense all of a sudden that you've been a stick figure for a while. And you feel like I could feel my sits bones. I could feel, oh, my butt. It's like round. It's not like, I'm like, wow. All right.
Nice. Nice.
I think Joe is trying to say something, but she's muted.
Yeah.
You're muted, Joe.
Joe, you're muted.
Sorry. No, I was thinking how centered and relaxed it made me feel, because I've been very ill and stressed and tight, and yeah, that was wonderful.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I want to say something when you were talking about that. It made me think of breathing, and it made me think of that last thing that I showed you, which I learned is it to be called a heart hug. And one of the things about it, the idea behind it is the vagus nerve, which you may have heard about, is the nerve that affects our parasympathetic nervous system that makes us either relax or be prepared to deal with life. And if you went too hard on it, you're probably going to make yourself ready to deal with life. But if you're very gentle, it gives the vagus nerve or our nervous system somehow a really nice feeling that, okay, it's all right, we can relax. And I like to tell people too, I mean, when you're feeling stressed or something, like if you're out in public or you're getting ready to do a talk or something like that, you'd probably feel a little silly doing this, but you could just take your fingertips and do a tiny little circle, and nobody has to know what you're doing, but you might be calming yourself.
How does this differ from the Alexander method? I've heard of that, and I've known musicians who've used it for, the shoulder and arm issues.
It has some similarities. Both of them bring attention to how we move. They're taught a little bit differently. Alexander lived, their lives overlapped. Feldenkrais came after Alexander. One of the things that I like about Feldenkrais is that we can do hands-on movement that can be completely nonverbal. Alexander is a little more cognitive, so to speak. It's beautiful. And if you ever get an Alexander lesson from somebody, their hands are super soft and light and gentle, and yet really make a difference in how you move. I don't know it. I know a lot more about Feldenkrais than I know about Alexander. And Feldenkrais was so steeped in so many different things. He was a physicist and a mechanical engineer. He was an athlete. He played soccer, injured his knee, and figured out how to function differently. He also was a black belt in judo and spoke 5 languages. So he really studied really broadly and brought all of that into the work. They're both really beautiful ways of working.
Thank you.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does.
Wasn't some of this developed at the Black Mountain? Is it the Black Mountain It's
I don't think it was developed at Black Mountain College where the artists were, but Feldenkrais did go to Esalen in California at Big Sur. He taught there and he taught at Amherst. One of his trainings, he did a training in San Francisco and then he did a training in Amherst, Massachusetts at Hampshire College.
And there was something that was developed in England. And it also used all of the elements of authentic movement.
Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of different things that really look at the body and how we move. And there's some people who studied with Feldenkrais who branched out and called it something different. Thomas Hanna studied with Feldenkrais and he developed I think it's somatic education, or I can't remember all the different ones. There's Mind Body Studies Academy with Mia Siegel, who was one of my teachers, who just passed away. There's the Anat Banyel method. There are a number of people, some of whom I don't even know about, who've taken the Feldenkrais work and put their own fingerprints on it and called it something different.
I always felt when I worked with Alexander folks that it's a different approach. Like when I would bring a problem or an issue in, the Feldenkrais person would say, oh, well, let's look at that and see how your body moves. And it would be a little less verbal. Whereas the Alexander person would say, oh, it's this.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's nice to have that exploratory feeling rather than being diagnosed really fast.
Right. Feldenkrais liked to say to correct is incorrect.
Yeah.
So, and one of my teachers loves to emphasize the idea that she doesn't really want to take away your experience of learning it for yourself. So one of the funny stories about Feldenkrais, when he was teaching in the training in San Francisco, he said a number of things, including, I don't have any principles. How's that? You came to a training with a man who has no principles. But then he went on to teach a lot of things that have a lot of fundamental ideas. But he also said, I can't teach you anything. Like, oh, great. Here we came to this workshop, not me, but other people. And you can't teach me anything. But he said, what I can do is create the conditions for learning. And in my personal experience, there have been times when I was really frustrated because I wanted somebody to show me, just tell me already. So I think there's a fine line between really elegantly creating conditions for learning versus kind of opening up the top of the head and pouring in the information. I think creating the conditions for learning and offering people an experience where they learn more about themselves is something that can be transformative, and I really love that. Thanks, Catherine.
So in a suggestion mode without you telling us what to do.
Okay.
What kinds of suggestions do you have for remembering to do this more often, remembering to tap in this way?
Yeah. One of the things that's nice to do, so many of us spend a lot of time sitting at the computer, and really you can see me doing it now. I mean, you see my shoulders moving, but what's happening is I'm shifting from my right sit bone to my left sit bone, just simply doing that. You can also do a similar thing with just rolling to the front of your sit bones and rolling to the back of your sit bones. You're bringing your pelvis a little forward and a little backward, and notice in part of the movement you get a little taller, part of the movement you get a little shorter. And then you can even make circles. I was working with a private client today and she was talking about something she did in Pilates and her arm was hurting and blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't know if you do Pilates, but it was the mermaid where you push something to one side and you're almost side sitting. Well, she'd already hurt her arm and it was hurting. So we did this whole thing. Actually, had prepared for this lesson. And so we did just some of what we did today. So you can imagine if you do some of those things that we did today and needed to reach out to the right, you're using your whole body. It's not just stretching your arm or straining your arm. Your whole body gets to help you. one of the teachers said that in honor of his communist grandparents, he liked to encourage people to consider their body parts and let each to his own ability, each with its own ability, whatever. I hope that helps. The other thing is just to pay attention, to start with something soft and easy. If you're going to lift weights, then just put your hands on the weights or under the weights and begin to lift a little bit and see, am I scrunching up my shoulders to do it? Could I do it a little differently? And pausing to move. Lots of different movements are really good for us. And can I do a little self-promotion?
Sure.
So I teach an online class on Tuesdays at 11:30, and it's free, pay as you wish, and it's lessons like this. Usually it's with people lying on their back. They start with lying on their back. And it's kind of a delicious way to spend a little time for yourself and your own body.
And how would we find that class?
Go to gika.info, GIKA.info, INFO. And under upcoming events, it'll have it there. Oh, thanks, Alyssa. Alyssa put it in the chat. I also teach at the Jung Center, which Alyssa's very familiar with. Usually about 3 times a year I teach. Lately, it's been sort of a mini retreat, like a Saturday afternoon. And we do 2 or 3 of these lessons with a little break in between. It's nice to see some familiar faces. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Catherine.
I agree. It was when I did my presentation for WIVLA, it was incredibly comforting to see such familiar faces. Yeah.
I've done the I've done the half day session at the Jung Center, and it's really great. I would highly recommend it. You have one coming up, Gika?
I just did one, and so I'll probably do one in the summer, but I don't know the dates yet. And I live in the Woodlands, but I also do private lessons down in Houston at a couple of different places. And if you've never done that, it's just delicious.
She's not wrong. I did put Gika's website in the chat, but it's also on the WIVLA calendar. So, so if you walk away tonight and feel inspired later on, it is parked there.
Thank you.
It looks like there's going to be a felting class coming up.
Yeah,
we will have a
we
will have a WIVLA workshop
on
Sunday, April 13th, where Gika will teach felt making, which is how I got to know her. So I'm indubitably excited. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll have that info up on the calendar. I suspect next week. I just, Gika and I just need to nail down the details, and then we'll be good to go.
Can you talk about what that is? What felting is?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, I love to tell people that it's magic because it really feels like magic to me.
I'm up for some magic.
Yeah. You take maybe in a little work too. You take wool fibers, and I almost, when I teach, I use merino wool, which is a very fine wool. It's been washed and carded and dyed. And we take those loose fibers and manipulate them in different ways, add soap and water, and maneuver them into some kind of object. Sometimes it's a flat object, sometimes it's 3-dimensional. Usually the colors tend to be really beautiful, and it's really magic what happens, because it's, you start with these loose fibers and you end up with something that's a cohesive cloth or a cohesive 3-dimensional object. And it all happens under your hands. And it's not, when you use clay, you make things with clay but you fire it. A lot of things when you spinning and weaving is just a whole different process. And I did silk fusion for a while, where you take the silk fibers and put a medium and shape it or leave it flat, and that would hold it together. But this happens because the fibers make tiny little knots and they stick together and they don't come apart. And it's just magical. I don't know what else to say about it. And it feels good in your
Agree
hands.
more. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something about feeling it happen while it's happening that I just find magical.
And
I'm
for what it's
demoing.
worth.
This
Sorry.
is the one my daughter made in her last felting workshop.
Oh yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah.
That came out really
Okay.
cute.
It's really fun.
And I know there are some felters who can make the same thing over and over again. They have this capacity, but for me, it's always kind of magical. I never know, even when I have a sort of intention about what I want to make, it for me ends up having a bit of a life of its own, which is
Yeah,
part of the magic too.
this was a Nuno felt workshop that I did not intend to become a chicken. It started out as something inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe, and it ended up as a chicken. Okay.
Here's a piece that I made that started out as really a spherical shape. And as I worked with it, this is what happened. And then I ended up doing some embroidery on the inside. It's got stuff on it. I keep it on my desk here and has sewing stuff in it.
You make like a box.
You could make a box.
Too bad you can't use cat fur, because I have a lot of that.
Yeah, you could probably blend it in with the wool.
Yes. I've done it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So when are these classes?
When are the
Oh,
classes?
there she goes.
Yeah. When?
When's
Man,
the class?
I think it's Sunday, April 13th in the afternoon. Oh, look. Those are so cute.
I don't make these. I buy them, but I love them. They're
really
they're
adorable.
all made from felt. So this is the wolf and three little pigs.
Oh, how cute.
Yes.
I mean, there's some things on YouTube where people have taken flat felt and sewn it or made different shapes with felt, and then they do these little animated things. It's just amazing.
Cool.
Okay, so Alyssa, did you say you had made something with cat fur?
Was that intentional or unintentional that it got in there?
All right, so it may have started as unintentional, but my previous cat was a long hair, and so it was not difficult to acquire great heaping piles of her beautiful fur, and so yeah, I saved it, and when she passed, I worked it into a felt project.
Oh, that's cool.
Absolutely worked.
Did you blend it with wool?
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, people are always asking me, and I haven't fooled around with other hairs that much, but I always feel like it's easier if you blend it with wool. And sometimes when we do the classes, we'll add, like on this one, these bits here are kid mohair that's been dyed and just integrated into it. It's really fun, yeah. And you can add other fibers. I usually bring, oh, there you go, Brooke.
Oh,
nice. Brooke made the coolest bag. Is it a bag? Did it become a bag? Yeah, that's so cool.
Okay.
Brooke, you should talk about what happened with yours, because Brooke had this flat piece and she had an idea what was going to happen, and then we turned it on its end, so to speak.
We did. So yeah, I haven't sewn it yet, but I made this piece, and there were a couple of there's different designs on the back and the front. And then Gika came over and we started playing with it. And then before I know it, we have this nice clutch. It just turned into this really cute clutch. But I think we were both surprised when we started playing around with it. And I didn't want to make it too thick which it's fun because you can keep working it and it shrinks and gets thicker and more stiff, and or you stop like I did before it gets to that point and you have something that you can use more as a looser fabric. So yeah, it was really fun. It was kind of like doing creating an abstract painting but with fibers. It was really fun.
What was fun about that for me with watching what happened with Brooke is she was happy with it and she was thinking about what she might do with it. And she had lifted up one of the corners and I took it away from her, which I occasionally do in classes, and folded it a different way. And she just lit up because she started seeing, because it, y'all have met Brooke. She doesn't want it to look like anybody else's, not that it did anyway. And suddenly it was just completely different and surprising and magical. So it was really fun to watch you as you just went from this is cool to I love it.
Yeah, and I think that there were some edges that are really not what I expected. You know, when you have this as a flat piece and it has that thing, and then when she folded it, I was like, oh, it's a clutch with this scalloped thing on it. It just came to life. It was, yeah. And it seemed like everybody in the room was having a different experience like that with theirs. So yeah, magical.
So one of the things I like to say, I mean, because I do coaching and I do teach felt making and I do Feldenkrais, and I'm guessing that each of you has experienced this in some way or another. When you do what you do, you could have a different experience of yourself. And when you do something that immerses you in what you're doing, you learn more about yourself and you can also refine what you know about yourself. So each of these things, whether it's Feldenkrais or felt making or particular kinds of conversation, you can begin to find out more about what's possible for you. So even if you never, like if you come to the felt making and you never make another felt piece, you just probably will find out something new about yourself.
Do you combine your Feldenkrais practice with your felt making?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first started all this, my web guy was saying, don't you want to have a separate website for this and for that? They don't seem like they go together. But I've been surprised and delighted by how many people do a little bit of all three or one or two or whatever. And all of them influence, like coming here, I would never have to mention coaching or felt making, but my experience of those influences how I approach the Feldenkrais and vice versa with all the other things.
That was great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Brooke.
I just got this image of us, like whether we're writers or visual artists or sculptors or anything, like I just imagine us doing our work and every now and then, you know, taking a little break and then getting back to it. Like just having body awareness. While, like you said, you know, oftentimes we sit and do the same thing over and over again. We either sit at the computer or we, you know, on the weekends sometimes when I, you know, put time aside to work on my art, I'm in the same chair for a really long time, or I'm standing at the easel for a really long time. So I think for this audience, you know, this is a great place to talk about how they all go together really well.
I want to add something that made me think of. There are a lot of things that we do where we want to improve our movement or strengthen ourselves. And you kind of have to remind yourself to do it. You know, if you stretch, you have to keep stretching. If you want to build muscle, you have to keep working at it. One of the things that happens in this approach is that once you integrate it, once you get the feeling that, oh, I can wiggle my bum and my whole spine moves, and you sit a little taller or you breathe a little deeper, and your nervous system loves that. So it's going to keep it. You don't have to think about it, or you might find yourself being uncomfortable and all of a sudden you go, oh, that was nice. Yeah. And it does it without having to think about it. Just like when we learned to walk, we just started walking. And then we kind of come across life and we have different things that get in the way, and we get into patterns of movement that have been really functional and helpful until they're not, or until they're too costly, or until we use them when they're not not the best thing. And so by doing this, we have options. Just in tonight's lesson, we moved our shoulders to the right in a number of different ways. We moved our spine in a number of different ways. And so now we have the option. Choices are nice.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to sleep better tonight.
Yeah, well, that's nice. Good, good, good.
Yeah. Would this be a practice to do like before you go to sleep?
It's lovely to do that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I should say, like, there's a set of lessons that Feldenkrais taught. They're like over 500 transcripts of lessons that he taught, and this lesson is based on one of those. So there are lots of different variations on what you can do.
I remember once I was taking a Feldenkrais class with Mary Beth Smith at the Jung Center. And, I never knew, well, it's not important what the end goal was to any series of movements. It was about just doing these sort of sequential building movements. But I'm not kidding. We were doing so much of Feldenkrais practice is spent sort of lying on the floor. Or sitting in a chair, and these very subtle movements, but we were doing something and I was on the floor and then I was sitting up, and I don't know how that happened.
I taught one of those lessons today. Yeah. It's just magic. It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. If you had told me we're going to end up sitting, I would have been like, yeah, right. Okay. But well, there I was.
Yeah. And one of the best things about some of those lessons is you start to feel like a little kid. Like, I remember there's one lesson where you find yourself rolling from your back onto your stomach and your head is up. And I'm like, I felt like a little kid lying on the floor watching TV. And I hadn't felt that way in a really long time. It's great.
Run home that night and do a demo for my husband. I was like, check this out.
And one of the lessons I taught was really fun. I call it spiraling to sit and stand. And I had a friend who was in her 80s and she learned how to do it. This 80-year-old woman just moving down to the floor, sitting on the floor cross-legged and coming right back up. And she was on vacation with her kids and grandkids and teaching them how to get up off the floor. It was just great.
If you could teach, okay, I'm not muted. If you could teach me to get off the floor.
You'd like that, huh?
Yeah, sign me up.
I'd sign up.
I bet we could. I'm not sure, depending on what your limitations are, it might take more than one lesson, but we could do it.
That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
I'd
And
love
one of the secrets of that particular approach to getting up off the floor, you don't put your knees on the floor. Can you imagine that?
No.
Well, I can imagine that, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. It's hard for me to teach it in just
because, I know it would be bending your knees and then somehow or other rolling yourself up. Well, that's my picture.
That's your idea. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a little different from that, actually. It's pretty cool.
Okay. But then two people would have to get me off the floor.
Okay. We'll bring a little winch.
God.
A team practice. That's right. Yeah. Team sport.
So when people haven't done that in a really long time, I do, like, there's what I use for the private lessons is a low massage table. And so sometimes we'll just do the beginning of it just with sitting on the table and using that same technique to come up to stand or to come back to sit. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Y'all have been great. It was so fun to watch you. You looked like you were really getting into it and moving really smoothly. I hope you enjoyed it as much as it looked like.
Thank you. It
This
was
is
really
great.
Thank you
great.
so much.
Thank you.
Gika.
It's been a pleasure. And I hope to see some of you at the workshop.
Yes.
I think you will.
I think you can count on that. Yeah.
Any
I
other
didn't see it on-
questions for Gika?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I didn't see the felt on the calendar yet.
Not yet, she said.
On the calendar yet.
Yeah.
Next week. I plan to have it up there by next week.
Okay, cool. Now, this is great.
I'd like to give a special shout out to Catherine's cat, who, unlike my cats who are afraid of the Zoom, Catherine's clearly is not, and it brought me an excessive amount of joy.
Yeah, Zaliki was really she liked hanging with some ladies. I have 3 boy cats and 1 girl, so she's like, this is my kind of meeting, and she loves art. She's an artist cat. When she was a kitten, she got into my fairy gardens and art stuff, and she strewed them all the way down the stairs. There were like little decorative beads and ribbons, and she's like, this pretty. So
That's great.
that's her jam.
Nice.
I feel like we might need an honorary WIVLA membership for the kitty.
Yeah.
Right.
That's Zaliki.
Thank you very
While
much.
I'm unmuted, I have one other question, and that is, Deidre, what are you working on? Because I'm incredibly curious.
This is a sad project that I'm working on. I'm making these little fish squeezies, and I've decided to do it by hand, but I'm getting rapidly to the point. I'm going to do 82 of them. My father passed away, and so this is part of my process. And so yeah, doing them by hand is tough, and I've never sewn. I mean, I learned when I was young, and so kind of making it up as I go along.
Yeah. What a lovely practice. My brother-in-law made 1,000 paper cranes when his father passed. So I get that.
Cool.
And thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks for asking.
Well, I think if there's no other questions for Gika, we just want to give her a big
Yay!
shout
Thank you
out
so
here.
much for having me. It was really a pleasure.
Cool.
We'll open the floor now to anybody who has announcements about anything going on they'd like to share with our group.
Well, I'm really excited to see you guys on the 28th at Right Space because I'm the featured reader that night. So that'll be cool. We'll be all in the zone. It'll be really fun.
Okay.
Margot has her hand up.
Yep. I have 2 videos in the Real Poetry Film Festival in April.
Yay.
So when I get more information, like it will be, the festival's online until the 12th of April, and then there'll be an in-person screening. So I'm not sure exactly how that will work out, but anyway, yay.
Yay.
I have something. So on March 1st from 6 to 8, it's a Saturday night at Spring Street Studios. There's 2 art exhibit opening receptions, and I have art in both of them on the first and second floor. On the second floor, the art is inspired by music. So they're going to have QR codes. So you can go up to the art, each artist's art, and do the QR code and listen to the music while you look at the art for each.
Cool.
Cool.
Nice.
And the one on the first floor is going to be it's called Mirror Mirror, and it's all of the Sawyer Yards artists that are participating. I think 70 artists or 73 artists will be participating.
Yeah.
Melody's
I'll be
in
there.
it.
I'm in there too.
I'm in it.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see you there. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I have exciting news. In New York, I'm going to be in New York May 1st through the 4th for the Clio Art Fair in Chelsea, New York.
Nice.
Awesome.
I have 10 VIP tickets. So if anyone's going to be in New York, I'll give you a VIP ticket if you're going to be around May 1st through the 4th.
I bet you're a fun person to be with in New York.
Let's go.
That's a good bet.
Well, the weekend, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll go real quick last night. The weekend before the felting workshop is the reception for my show at the Jung Center.
Okay.
Hey.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, with bells on. But Gladys Mays raised her hand.
Oh, yeah, I have a speaking event on March the 26th at the Melvin Knapp Senior Center at City of Pearland at 2424 South Park Avenue in Pearland, Texas, and it will be intertwining poetry and nature. And it promises to be a lot of fun. So and it is from 11. It's going to be an hour, only an hour and 15 minutes. I'm not going to speak a whole hour and 15 minutes, but I have an hour and 15 minutes. So it will be like from 11:45 to 1 o'clock. Yeah, 11:45 to 1 o'clock on March the 26th at the Melvin Knapp KNAPP Senior Center with the city of Pearland.
Is it indoors or outdoors?
It is an indoor event, and it is an indoor event, and it is an indoor event. And I'm going to be, of course, I'm going to talk about the power of walking, the power of self-discovery, and I may do a little quick, if they want to, a little walk outside for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. If that's not there, I will do poems that reflect nature and the power of getting outside. That's what it's going to be about.
All right.
Well, if there's anybody I could listen to for an hour and a half, it would be you, Gladys.
Wow.
True. It's true.
Wow.
And she's got some outdoor poetry. Yeah.
More powerful.
Shirley, you got something?
Well, I want to announce the group called Three, which is Susan Salter, Brenda Bowman, and myself. We have a show coming up in Fort Bend at the Fort Bend Museum in Richmond, Texas. And we did this last year during Women's History Month. This year we're doing it about the same time, but it's called the Journeys of Three. So it'll be both literal and internal, external and internal journeys that we've created about 10 pieces each. And that show opens on March the 4th through May the 17th. The reception is March the 11th at 5:30 to 7 or 7:30. And coincidentally, the museum is going to have a new exhibit opening the same evening that we're having our reception. And that's the Texas Fashion Through the Years.
Oh,
cool. So that will be in the back of the museum. It'll be kind of fun to see our journeys and also Texas fashion through the years. So come out if you can. If you can't make it for the reception, come out anytime between March 4th and May the 17th.
So that's on the WIVLA calendar.
It is.
Great.
It's going to be in the newsletter. I just keep babbling about it.
Don't you have another pop-up one? What is that? You've had some like pop-up and then
well, that is called, they're calling it a pop-up show.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure why, but it's called
pop-up to me means like it's like a day and it's gone. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's different, but
more than popped up.
And then I think that we have art at Winter Street right now called Spaces, which is filled up Winter Street with some beautiful art and well hung art. I mean, the curation was fabulous. So Marie, you might want to tag onto that and say something. Marie worked herself to death trying to get that show put up.
It was excellent. I went Sunday.
Yeah, it's
and I saw you there.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
it's an awesome show. We had, I think it's the biggest show since I've been there. We had about 57 artists submit work,
Oh,
and
wow.
it goes spaces big and small. And the smaller works are on the first floor, and the large pieces are on the second floor. And if you get a chance, come see it. It'll be up until April 26th. It took us about 8 days to curate and hang. Yeah.
Oh.
So Marie has work. I have work there.
That's Spring Street?
No,
Winter.
Winter.
No. Winter Street.
Winter.
Yeah, Winter. Okay.
The season that it is now, winter.
Winter, yes.
The freeze is coming.
That's right.
Winter tomorrow, yeah.
I think Marianne's hand is up.
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to make an announcement or not, but I'll make it very
course.
quick.
Go ahead.
I am a member of a fabulous group of photography-based artists called the American Society of Photographers, ASP, and I'm a group now of 60 that have been curated into a traveling national exhibit called Maker's Muse. It opened earlier in January in the Dallas area. And on April 11th, it'll be coming to the Silos in Houston in the largest gallery that right as you enter on the downstairs first floor of the Silos. There's 60 artists represented. Each artist was able to have one piece curated into the exhibit. And then it'll continue to travel from Houston. I'm not sure the next destination, but it will be there at the Silos for, I don't know if you guys call it the Silos or Sawyer Yards, but
that's it.
You know, it's the main entrance there, right beside the big art sign that the in that first floor where the exhibit will be. The grand opening is going to be a very nice reception, open to the public. Yes, there you go. On April 11th, and then it'll be housed there through mid-May. I'm not sure the exact ending date, but you guys, if you want to, we'd love to see you all at the opening reception. It should be really nice, and the work is really, it's really phenomenal. It's some gorgeous stuff from all over the country.
Okay, that sounds great.
Oh, thank you, Marianne. All right. Anybody else?
We got stuff going on.
Well, I think
we got a lot of
think
stuff going
is an
on.
active
I think a few of us had some artwork go on a road trip to San Antonio.
Oh yeah, the Women's Caucus show.
Mhm. Yeah, who all raise your hands? I know that we have a bunch of people in that. Yeah.
Rona also. Yeah, unfortunately, we found someone to take it all.
Oh, I have a request. So my name, it says LaDonna. My name's Donna Carnahan. So I don't know how to change that or have it changed.
Well, I wish I'd known. I would have changed it at the very beginning.
If you go up to your, three little, what is it called?
Meatballs.
Meatballs. Yeah.
Meatballs. Those three little dots up there.
3 little dots. Okay. There's a drop-down menu there where you can change your name.
Profile. Okay.
Option that is
this is the only Zoom call that I do is with Wivla.
All right. Well, how would you guys like to end a little early tonight?
Right. That works.
Is everybody good with that? Yeah. All right.
This has been great.
Thank you for letting me join.
Great meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good
night.
Good night.
Thank you.